to pay MTA the money it's owed. And I want to thank the judge for articulating what the law requires and how it cannot be violated. If you read the decision, the judge even opened up with remembrance of the 3,000 lives that were lost on 9/11, only blocks from the courthouse where the ruling was made. Also mentioning the fact that there have been at least 8 terrorist plots on our subway over the last 20 years, all of which have been thwarted, partially because we've had this funding and the training and the personnel in place. Well, the truth is, we shouldn't have to fight this out in court if Republicans had the guts to stand up for the people who elected them to office. You know, Republicans love to call themselves the party of law and order, the party that backs the blue. But if backing the blue really means more than just a bumper sticker or a logo on a hat, then we need action. We need more than just your words. It's about giving law enforcement the tools they need to keep us safe. So here's my simple message to Washington and the Republicans in Congress, especially the 7 from our own state of New York. If you're serious about keeping America safe, prove it. Stop the hypocrisy. Stop trying to defund our police. Stop playing political games with people's lives. And stop being silent when Secretary Noem abandons her duty to protect Americans, especially the people you represent. Work for New Yorkers instead of against them. Now, we don't have to agree on everything. I suspect we won't. But we should be able to agree that keeping people safe is non-negotiable. As I said from day one, I'll work with anyone interested in bolstering our public safety efforts. And over the last few years, we've invested over $3 billion for police and safety, giving our officers the best tools, technology, and training they need to keep New Yorkers safe. And we've paired these unprecedented investments with reforms as well. Also, on our subways, we've surged police, covered additional overtime, deployed officers on the overnight trains, and installed 33,000 cameras, platform barriers, LED lighting. All these efforts are paying off. Crime rates are down. Confidence is up. And this summer was the safest summer in our subways in over a decade. We've come too far for anyone to jeopardize our progress or the vital work that still lies ahead. Also, Secretary Noem and anyone planning to continue cutting essential dollars from the state of New York, lawyer up, because we'll see you in court once again. And as you saw today, if you attack New Yorkers, when you put us in harm's way, we will fight back and we will win. Win with an incredible leader of the Attorney General's office, Tish James, who knows how to fight back hard, and win. Madam Attorney General.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. And good afternoon, everyone. I can recall the day on October 1st when the governor had a press conference in front of the Statue of Liberty. And I can recall the night before on September 30th, the last day of the fiscal year, where we filed a lawsuit around 10 p.m. We did not receive official notice. We heard about the cutting of MTA funds on Street's blog. This decision really is an important day for New Yorkers, for every commuter, for every transit worker, and every family that relies on our subways, our buses, and trains every day. There is generally no public interest in the perpetuation of an unlawful agency action, none whatsoever. And a few weeks ago, as I indicated, my office filed this emergency lawsuit after the federal government abruptly cut more than $33 million in anti-terrorism funding for the MTA. The court has now affirmed what we argued from the start, that the decision was unlawful and supported by the facts, in particular that it was in violation of the Procedure Act. And so it's really critically important that individuals understand that the Transit Security Grant Program was established after 9/11 to protect high-risk transit systems like the MTA from potential terrorist grants. And as the governor mentioned, almost 3,000 individuals lost their lives on 9/11. And I can think of no other jurisdiction that is more at risk than New York City, New York State. By law, These funds must be allocated based solely on risk. And there is no transit system in America that faces higher risk or serves more riders than the great state of New York. This ruling restores more than $33 million in critical security funds that will go directly towards protecting millions, I said millions of riders, strengthening cybersecurity, upgrading surveillance and communication systems, and supporting law enforcement, most importantly, in preventing and responding to threats. I want to thank Governor Hochul for her leadership and for her partnership in standing up for New Yorkers. Our office will continue to work together with state and federal partners to ensure that New York receives the resources it needs to keep our transit system and everyone who depends upon it safe from harm. That is our job, and that is why we are prepared to fight back against any additional cuts that harms New Yorkers. Thank you.
Janelle?
Listen, I worked at the World Trade Center for 14 years after 9/11. The one thing we knew is that you had to make investments to make sure that that place and New York was safe from any terrorist attack ever again. And we made those investments at the World Trade Center. And thanks to Governor Hochul, we've been making enormous progress in fighting crime in the subways and elsewhere in the transit system. Those are extraordinary statistical accomplishments because of the investments we've made under this governor. It never made sense to be talking about taking money away from those efforts, to take money away from cops, to take money away from the surveillance systems and the cameras that the governor has allowed us and helped us to accomplish, to take money away from communications. It really never made any sense. We are making huge progress, but you cannot forget that the transit system is one of the targets that the bad guys tend to focus on. Remember London back in 2005. Remember even Tokyo back in the late 90s. Remember what happened in Madrid. This is not a game. This is an area that must be protected. We are doing it, and taking money away from it never made any sense. I am so grateful to the governor and to the Attorney General for making sure that we will continue to receive these needed federal funds so that we can invest in cops, invest in communications, and the technology that protects every transit rider. Thank you both.
All right, thanks, guys. We have time for just a couple on-topic questions only. Dave, go ahead. You guys broke the story. Kick us off.
You know, this is, I guess, a topic of funding government, and we just learned a few minutes ago that the Gateway project is not terminated, but in a similar way to what happened with this, it was by fiat, it's not there, and it is there, happened with the terrorism money. How do you work like this? How do you get anything done? How do you plan for anything when it seems like any day can just be a new adventure of what is actually happening?
We call it Washington whiplash. I mean, you cannot possibly fathom all the different dynamics that we're experiencing. Literally, as the Attorney General referenced, we were standing in front of the Statue of Liberty pleading to get money back to make our subway safe, and a staffer handed me a note that says, oh, we just lost $18 billion for the Gateway Tunnel and the Second Avenue subway. So we're constantly having to be in a reactive mode, but I have realized a couple things. We have a great Attorney General. She wins an awful lot in court. That's number one. Number two, I have also made personal appeals to the president, appealing to him as a New Yorker who has properties here and had employees here and has a lot of relationships here, and that is also in his interest as a leader of this great nation to recognize that New York City is the economic engine for not just New York, but the entire country. So something like the Gateway Tunnel, if it's compromised and it's over 100 years old and the existing tunnels were damaged by Superstorm Sandy, if that collapses, the northeastern economy will come to its knees. So I will say this. We're prepared for anything. We're used to lawyering up. But it's a damn shame that our efforts have to be spent on playing defense instead of offense to protect our people. So we can manage both. That's the answer I have. We're managing both, but the end is not in sight. I think these are punitive measures to stick it to democratic states. But this is not just fallout from the shutdown. This was happening before that. This is just a continuation of what they promised to do is extract revenge on their political enemies. And apparently any state that has a Democratic governor or Democratic mayors are considered political enemies because we're on the receiving end that other states are not. Tell me how Florida and Texas and Nevada could receive these same funds without having to go to court. They're playing politics, but more than that, they're playing with people's lives. And that's abhorrent to me.
On topic? Yep, go ahead.
Governor, pursuant to Gateway specifically, have you had any conversations with the president or the administration about that specific project? This has been something that he's been bandying about for a while. He's very clearly stated that he's targeting these funds because it's a Schumer priority. But I'm curious if you specifically are fielding them about this instead of just kind of a general New York economy issue.
No, I have. I think right before he went to the Middle East, I'm ready to follow up on that conversation.
His comments yesterday. You haven't talked to him since.
Not since yesterday, but certainly right before he went to the Middle East. I spoke about this. I called directly. I said, thank you for the $187 million, but what about the $12 billion? And I would think he thought this was just a reaction to what was happening with the shutdown. But I also said, this is bigger than that. You know, this is something I fought for as well. I had to work with Phil Murphy, Governor Murphy, and Jano knows the long history of presidents saying yes or no, governors from New Jersey saying no, governors from New York not working. So this has had a long, sordid history, and we were the ones who could get it over the finish line with support from Senator Schumer to get the federal dollars. But we had to get the arrangement between our two states. And so I'm just going to continue making that appeal and talk to him again real soon on that, for sure.
Evan, go ahead.
Thank you. Have you given any thought, you've got a couple of projects coming up, most notably IDX, that may have some reliance on federal funding. What can you do to build a firewall from this sort of capricious action in the future? Is there any way to fund it fully by the state?
Well, the best firewall is to win Congress next year. So in January 27, we can stop the insanity. So that's one firewall that I'm actually focused on. This is not a political event, so I won't repeat that. But Jano, we're already making the investments
Yeah,
now. And
yeah.
so I'm continuing down the tracks. IBX is happening. It is happening. And come hell or high water, we're going to deliver on that. But I believe that this is a short blip in our history, that the need to have the federal dollars kick in can come down a little further down the road, and we can make that happen. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's happened. We're going to make it happen.
Last one, on topic, Jack, go ahead.
Speaking of punitive measures and exacting revenge, General, I wonder if you might speak about the indictment that you're now facing and what.
Is that on topic, Jack? Is that on topic?
We talked about retribution.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what some are seeing as a pattern with the administration of extracting revenge from political enemies.
Well, it's also, I will let her answer for herself. She's certainly very more than capable. But it is absolutely the weaponization of the Department of Justice. And that's what's so scary about this, that no one in this country is safe if you stand up against this administration or just do your job, as our Attorney General has been doing, that you are now in their crosshairs. And so, I have confidence in our Attorney General to be able to withstand what's coming. But these are dark, scary days.
I would say what she said. But first of all, the decision was based on the Administrative Procedure Act, an arbitrary and capricious act by this agency, an unlawful act. And so too is the indictment. It's baseless. It's nothing more than retribution. Retribution for basically doing my job. For doing my job following a 2-year investigation and a congressional hearing. It wasn't political. It was based on facts and the application of the evidence. And the judgment was sustained. The amount of the disgorgement was what was dismissed. But the judgment remains. And so at this point in time, we will vigorously defend those charges, those baseless charges. My arraignment, as you know, is next Friday. I visit Norfolk quite frequently. My family is in Norfolk. I love my family, and I will defend these charges, and I want everyone to know that it is completely baseless, and I am totally innocent. Thank you.
guys. Have a good
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.